Honey is weird. I mean, genuinely weird. Leave a banana on your counter for a week and it'll turn brown. Leave bread out long enough and eventually mold shows up. Milk. There's a reason people check the expiration date. Food and time don't exactly get along. Eventually, time wins. But honey seems to play by a completely different set of rules because you can leave a jar sitting on a shelf for years and it barely changes. Which is strange, really strange, because honey is food and food isn't supposed to do that. So, what exactly makes honey different? Well, before we answer that, we need to figure out what's happening to every other food. Because food doesn't spoil by itself. Something is doing it. Tiny living things. They're floating through the air, landing on surfaces, moving around all the time. Too small to see, but very good at finding something to eat. And sooner or later, almost every food becomes lunch. That's what spoilage really is. But despite all their differences, they all want one thing: water. Because without water, they can't grow, they can't spread, they can't multiply the way they normally would. Which brings us back to honey, because honey has surprisingly little water inside it. Most foods are full of it. Honey isn't. Instead, honey is packed with sugar, but almost no usable water. It's like finding yourself stranded in the middle of a giant desert made of sugar. There's plenty around you, just not the thing you actually need. And without enough water, those tiny organisms struggle to survive. But that creates an even bigger question. If honey has so little water, where did all the water go? Well, honey wasn't always honey. It started out as nectar, the sweet liquid bees collect from flowers, and nectar contains plenty of water. But the journey from nectar to honey changes everything. Back at the hive, the nectar doesn't stay the way it came from the flower. The bees pass it around again and again and again, all while fanning it with their wings. Little by little, water begins to leave. The nectar slowly becomes thicker, richer, more concentrated, until eventually it becomes honey. And by this point, there isn't much water left for those tiny organisms to use. But that's not the only thing working in honey's favor, because honey is surprisingly acidic too. Not enough for you to notice while eating it, but enough to make it an even less welcoming place for many of the organisms that spoil food. That's why honey can sit on a shelf for years without changing very much. Inside ancient tombs, archaeologists have discovered honey that was still recognizable thousands of years later. The people who filled those jars are long gone, yet the honey was still there. Not fresh, not perfect, but still honey.